Welcome to Labor's View. I'm David Weiner, president of Local 1081 of the Communications Workers of America, and we represent the some 700 non-managerial employees of the Essex County Division of Welfare. Tonight we'll do something we've done in the past as well, but a little bit differently. We're going to go through a typical, it's not just typical, it is actually one, an agenda of one of our executive board meetings. An executive board meeting in a union normally means it's the elected officers of that union. In our union, since I became president in low 1980, we decided, because of past abuses by my predecessor in terms of comportment, we would include all of the shop stewards as well as the elected officers and elected shop stewards, which means it's a meeting of about 36 people, not easy to handle, in a relatively small room, once a month, but we managed to get through it with a lot of gaveling and a lot of you're out of ordering. So, first thing we talked about was one of our officers retired. Carol Englund, a loyal recording secretary of the union for many, many, many years, and has other duties as well, including keeping track of our medical benefits to some extent. She finally retired after some 30-something years with the agency, and we wish her well. And as per our bylaws, I appointed Adriene Hatchett, who's a former shop steward and who is I think she's a clerical, keyboarding clerk too. Carol was a family service worker. And so, and she as well, Adriene has done such a great job for us over the years, mostly behind the scenes, taking care of our holiday parties, which was no mean feat at all. It is a mean feat. But so Carol, congratulations, and Adriene, congratulations. Just as many other places, whether they be public institutions or private movie theaters in New York, fancy places, we have bed bugs, and the origin of which is hard, if not impossible, to determine. It's also difficult to get rid of them. We have a number of them at the 50 South Clinton Street building owned by the county, where our food stamp office is, general assistants, that's single people on welfare, and we have them at 18 Rector Street, privately owned building, which is relatively well maintained. And what happens is our members not only get freaked out by them, but they at times get bitten by them. And I've brought some photos. Here's one of a young lady whose arm was bitten, and here's another shot of her arm. You can see the extent of the bites. It's not pleasant. They're not generally bed bugs, from my research, carriers of major diseases, but that could always change. So what we're doing is grieving a lot, and the county is having these places fumigated. And after hours, of course. The problem, though, with fumigation is that if you do one floor, and it's a multi-floored facility, those bed bugs you don't kill just go to another floor, which is logical. So now they did the 5th floor last week in the private building, and I got a call a couple days later, they're now on the 6th floor. So they get the eggs most of the time, and they get a lot of the adults, but they travel. What really needs to be done is that they need to fumigate the entire building all at one time, and they also have to do it on a regular basis. This, of course, means money. That's something that the County of Essex doesn't like to spend upon the Division of Welfare. Not necessarily upon anything else, such as zoos, the zoo, the parks, and the golf courses. That is plenty of money. In fact, I'll give you an example. There was an article the other day about a very worthy cause. I think it was in Belleville or Bloomfield. It was a cemetery, which was either for or partly contained the remains of sectioned off of deceased veterans. The county was putting, I believe, about $288,000 of capital funding. That's money coming directly from your taxes into fixing up this cemetery. They might have gotten funds from other places as well, Green Acres, Open Space. But the point is the number for that one function of cleaning up a cemetery, $288,000. The entire capital budget of the Division of Welfare is $266,000 for the entire year. That means for all capital expenses. Capital meaning to fix things, have things fixed, telephone systems, whatever. That shows you the disparity and the focus that we service. We were going over these numbers just the other day at a big meeting that we're having to deal with the issues of welfare. I say we're having, I'm part of a committee. And The number of food stamp clients, if I recall correctly, is adult, 60,000 people in the county of Essex. It's 60,000 children as well. That's just the food stamp programs. That's not general assistance, Medicaid, TANF, which used to be AFDC, all other type of programs that we, in fact, one person out of every 5 people in the county of Essex, 1 out of every 5, if my fingers are correct, that's 20% of the people that live in Essex County are getting some service from the Division of Welfare. Yet our entire capital budget to avoid things and treat things like bed bugs and even more important things like crumbling buildings and safety of buildings is less than you spend on fixing up a cemetery. It makes you wonder about the attention paid to living versus the dead. So that's our bed bug caper, and we're pursuing it. Actually, I made up a mock-up, began a mock-up news release we may or may not use in the future, it's a goof on Joe D. Always welcoming a new exhibit to the zoo, like turtles and sea lions and kimono dragons. So this mock press release that would come from his office says that Essex County Turtleback Zoo annexes welcome mice and bedbugs. So we're going to declare that 50 South Clinton Street and 18 Rex Street are annexes of the zoo. So therefore, we'll get the attention of Joe D., and he can hold a press conference where he welcomes the mice and the bedbugs, but instead of maintaining them in the zoo, he actually does something to try to get rid of them. I'm still working on it. It's a work in progress. Cellular telephone calls and cellular use of phones of members. They're not supposed to use them during the workday. It's hard, especially in this day and age, for people to heed that kind of situation, especially when you have a lot of young parents, women in particular, that have kids that might be calling, or the schools might be calling. But we've admonished, being a responsible union we are, we've admonished our members not to adhere to the rules and regulations of the Division of Welfare and not to use their cell phones during anything other than break time during the workday. Interestingly, the county has decided to eliminate Saturday hours for the public to come to 18 Rector Street, the Division of Welfare. It was touted many, many years ago, I don't know, 10 or more, it was touted by the then administration that we would open up on Saturdays for half a day and on Wednesday evenings, and this would enable the clients that could not get to the offices, particularly working clients, for our services during the work days. Otherwise, they could come on those days. Well, the Saturday use was so little utilized by the public that the county has now eliminated it. We're just down to the Wednesday evenings. I wrote a letter to the landlord, a guy I admire greatly, Miles Berger, very influential and well-to-do gentleman in the city of Newark, who owns a lot of properties. His family owns a lot of properties in the city of Newark. They own the Robert Treat Hotel. They own 60 Park Place, where our union office is. They own the 18 Rector Street building I was talking about, which is across from the Y, where 9 of the 10 floors are devoted to the Division of Welfare. I wrote to him because we called in POSH, which is OSHA, only with public sector. And that's a state agency that comes in and checks out health and safety complaints. And what happened was the administration of the county, well-meaningly, to a great extent, decided to redo, contrary to what I just told you about the capital budget, usually, to redo the entire 9th floor, where, of course, the administration of the Division of Welfare is located primarily, and new rugs, new furniture, new this, new that. But they were doing it, the workmen, during working hours. Well, our people are sitting there. So our people, before someone called me, they started to take to wearing masks to walk around the building. So we called the state, we complained, and Mr. Berger, nicely enough and responsibly enough, told his staff, you do it at night or you do it on the weekends. A big problem for us is the change in technology that all of us are going through. The change from a paper society to a paperless to a digital society. Quick example is that we have bulletin boards. Hey, Day Day, this is a dog, Day Day. We'll show him a little later. So our little Beautiful little boy. Yeah. And we used traditionally bulletin boards that we contract through the county to have on the walls, and we put up various sundry things that I write up, or zillions of things I write up. And then when email came in years ago, I started going to email, got all the addresses for the entire agency and entire county actually, and email a lot of my stuff to the members for their edification. It's cleaner, it's right there, they can delete it if they need to, they can save it if they want to. The problem is that one, the shop stewards, many of them, not all, but many of them are not keeping the bulletin boards up to date. And that's a problem because the members won't see the stuff as they go by. And two, there is a big problem with the computer systems in our agency, which was one of the things we've discussed with management many, many times. And that means that we just got new hardware. We just got new computers and printers, and that came through a state contract. But the software is so slow, and the process by which it's kept the email system in place, nearly the entire 50 South Clinton Street food stamp office, nearly none of those employees is utilizing their system because of these problems. So they are totally blind, not only to what the union puts out, but just more importantly to the agency management. They're blind to directives and updates and stuff that the management puts out. So this is a major issue that has to be corrected for the betterment of the clients and for the benefit of our members. Meetings. We have to sometimes police our executive board, our shop stewards, and our officers, as you would any institution. People start to go astray at times, not all, but some. And a lot of people either come late or they leave early. And there's Day Day. Hey, look, give me a kiss. Oh, yeah, that's Day Day, everybody. And Day Day's always here, right? You never leave. No, okay. And so I've had to admonish the members that it's okay, sweetie. You know, he can stay. Let him stay in the shop. That they're not to leave early because, one, they're getting compensated. Okay, now you gotta get down, kiss. Okay, get down. They're getting compensated for it. Good boy, stay. They're getting compensated to a small degree from the local for being at these meetings, and if they're not there, how are they going to take the information back, which many of them don't put on the bulletin boards, or people don't even see it on the emails? It's a problem. So that's a management problem that we have internally. We have, up the count now is 65 arbitration cases pending to negotiate with the county. And we'll be doing that next month. As I said earlier, I had a meeting with management. There's a steering committee that's been put together, and it's being headed up by a consulting company called Janus Solutions. They've been around the county for a very, very long time. And they got a $75,000 contract through a bid to review with the different stakeholders in the Division of Welfare. Unfortunately, no clients to date, but people from the state, DHS, DFD, those are state, acronyms, the Division of Welfare. So to go over what the issues are, why the buildings are they so crowded at particularly certain times with clients, why are emails a problem, computers a problem, big major issues. Plus, with all this going on, while we're doing this, and this is no secret, I'm not talking out of school because we said we'd be confidential about the product of the committee, but we have at the same time, and this is what I brought up yesterday at the meeting, which was our first meeting. I said, well, the state is also planning to bring in IBM, which should be very interesting, to scan all the documents in the Division of Welfare, and we're supposed to go paperless. And this is supposed to happen by October of this year. I said, I don't know, folks. Okay, you got that going on. You've got a new software coming in that's been due for about 10 or 12 years called CAS. That's supposed to come in next year. You have all these different changes that the state is bringing in while they want us to correct the problems that we have in the agency with delivering services, so that even if you make a plan, it probably has to be altered significantly because of these changes coming in. So it's part of working in government. I'm sure it happens in the private sector as well. I know it does. because I've been on many boards of both profit and not-profits. What do we do as a group? Many organizations have what they call trade organizations, or somewhat they refer to it as, where, let's see, the Association of Counties in New Jersey, the League of Municipalities, you've heard of that, the League of Mayors, League of this, League of that. Well, besides our union, we have a CWA, Communication Workers of America, Welfare Locals Coalition. And we've been a little bit remiss meeting in the last year or so because of all the challenges coming from primarily the Governor Christie's administration and attacks upon public employees, aided and abetted by certain, unfortunately, mostly Democrat, not mostly, no, key Democrat members of the legislature, and then all the Republicans are in lockstep together. So this group, this Welfare Locals group, we're going to start getting together and meeting and going over issues that are of a common concern and unique concern to each of us so that we can try to coordinate and work together on many of these issues. The other issue that's coming in too is the governor is going for a waiver for Medicaid, meaning that he can change, the feds would let him make many, many changes on the Medicaid system. Medicaid is the medical coverage for non-seniors, except for, well, there are some seniors involved in the process. Well, we're concerned about by whom this work would be done if it were changed by this governor. So it's one of the things we're also keeping. But regardless of what happens, there are going to be some major changes and major increases to the number of clients coming in to our offices. And the 10th floor of 18 Rector Street, which is the Medicaid office, is already inundated on a daily basis with clients that our people are getting worn out just trying to service them. And those are just not poor people alone, like I said. We deal with seniors, we deal with children, we deal with adults. So that's a major, major problem. Something else that the council will discuss. The Freeholder Board Committee reports, I discussed them last month. I don't know what order you'll see this in, but the Essex County Freeholder Board is the legislative body of the County of Essex. The county executive is the executive. And the Freeholder Board has 18 committees that they annually charge in the beginning of the year during their reorganization, as all governments reorganize in the beginning of the year. They charge each committee, which is supposed to mirror everything that the administration does. There's a penal committee for the jail. There's a zoo committee, of course, which, interestingly enough, has never issued a report. They issue the resolution that authorized them, and this is the 2001 reports I have. They issued the resolution that from 2010 saying they should issue a report in 2011. Their report consists of that resolution. There is no report. And if you watch the fascinating, to us at least, television coverage a couple of weeks ago, Channel Fox News called me a while back, Channel 5, a channel I don't normally or at all watch unless I want to yell at something. And they were doing a story on the zoo. And I said, okay. And they were having trouble, they said, getting information from the administration through the Open Public Records Act. So I said, okay. So I gave them all my stuff, which is a lot, and cost factors and sources of funding. And interestingly enough, with all this money, they cited some at least $25 million to up to $50 million that's been spent on this zoo by this administration over the past 10 years. There's been no reports by the Freeholder Board issued by the Zoo Committee, which is really interesting because the chair of the Freeholder Board Zoo Committee is also on the Open Space Trust Fund Committee. And the point of the article, by the way, of the piece on Channel 5 was, yes, the zoo is pretty, it's nice exhibits, the mothers are there with the kids, but you're spending millions upon millions of dollars of both state and county, and the state money is really county money anyway because you're kicking into the state through your state taxes, and a special county tax, and some out of capital funds, as I said, which is directly out of the taxes. You're spending this money to create these nice exhibits for a Komodo dragon and two Gibbons apes, and it goes on and on and on. A golf course, miniature golf course, and now a restaurant, which is run and profited by a private person. But these committees don't produce any reports to have any oversight over these things. And I'm hoping that the pressure we put on the freeholders, most of whom are very nice, well-meaning people, to get them to actually look at what the administration does. One of those should be, and actually they did issue a report, was the penal committee. And I believe it used to be headed up by Ralph Caputo. He's now just an assemblyman. He stepped down as a freeholder. And they actually had meetings and had a report in the 2011 at least. There were none between 2009 and 2010 because I asked for them through OPRA, Open Public Records Act. But that's interesting because there should be a lot more interest in that, because if you looked at the New York Times, starting on Sunday, I believe, there were 3 articles in a row, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, about the halfway houses that are proliferating throughout the state of New Jersey and the country, actually, and how one particular company, CEC, is owned by a gentleman, John Clancy, whose senior vice president is named Bill Palatucci, who happens to be the guy who hired Christie, Governor Christie, then just a lawyer out of law school, hired him. I think he became a partner. I think both of them were registered as lobbyists on behalf of CEC, this halfway house. And then Palatucci, the story goes, uses his influence to get the governor made attorney general by having the soon-to-be governor raise a fortune in money to give to George Bush for his election campaign or re-election, and Christie makes his bones as the prosecutor, and then all of a sudden the budget for this particular halfway house organization, I think, went up 22%, while the amount of inmates went down 11%. And you have some 1,300 escapes within a confined period of time. 1 or 2 sad stories, they're all sad stories, but particularly one where this guy was in the halfway house, he escaped by feigning illness, then he went out and he strangled his girlfriend. And there have been other stories like this. So, and the stories about drug use, drug sales, all this is delineated within the New York Times. I urge you to look at it. But my point here is the connectivity between certain elements of government, in this case, the governor's office and the county executive's office, and who's a Democrat in New Jersey, in Essex, and the fact that privatization does not always or even usually work. There are certain things that must be done by government agencies to stop these kind of abuses, because these guys are in it for a profit. They're there to make money. These guys, I mean the people that own the companies. Okay, the politicians, I leave that to your own devices to decide on that one. So, another way we communicate is we are local. We have a website, and it's just go putting CWA 1081. I don't know all the slashes and stuff. It's just CWA 1081, and we put these shows on the website, so you'll have the joy of watching them over and over again if that's your desire. And a lot of the stuff, but not nearly of what I write in terms of letters to politicians, grievances, whatever, articles, that TV show I talked about, that news show about the zoo, that is on the website. You can access it there. Just look for the thing about the zoo and click the link. The only problem is you got to wait for a car commercial for about 30 seconds. But it's worth it to watch the show. So the website is also a tool by which we educate not only our members, but we attempt to educate the general public as well, because everything we do is there for them to see in the open. Health insurance, it's been a huge problem to say the least. We are now all waiting for the U.S. Supreme Court to rule on if the Affordable Care Act, which some derisively refer to as Obamacare, the bill pushed by and got successfully done so by President Obama in his first year of his term, whether all or parts of it are constitutional. Well, what's interesting to us parochially is that we got a notice from, because I sign up as an organization for other organizations with whom I normally would not be considered a friendly, so to speak. I sign up for the county. I've signed up for the county as a vendor. So therefore, I get all the information for all the contracts they're putting out. Not that we're going to bid on one necessarily, but it gives us a inside track on seeing what's going on. Anybody in the public can do it. So we also signed up for Connor Strong Boogaloo. Boogaloo? Yeah. Sounds like Boogaloo down Broadway. Boogaloo. The Boogaloo, that's what it is. And this is a company that's owned by South Jersey power broker George Norcross, a very close friend and confidant of Senate President Steve Sweeney, most of the time working very closely with Essex County Executive Joe DiVincenzo, not all the time. And these Connor Strong, I signed up for their information, and they have these webinars, which you go in and you sit on your, you call them up, you listen, but then you go on your computer, log in, and you can see slides to what they're saying. Someday they'll bring this a little up to date. But what's interesting is since we're not members, our county is not self-insured anymore for health benefits. That means that it actually goes to a broker, in this case it's Aetna, and gives them a fee, and from that fee Aetna takes its cut. And Connor Strong, by the way, they get a cut from Aetna for being the broker, but that's a whole nother story. And we are not in the state's health benefit system, which some have suggested might save the county a lot of money. I'm ambivalent about that. But this webinar was saying that because of the Affordable Care Act, anything spent in administrative costs by the county above 20%, the county employees and the retirees in health benefit plans, since we're paying into it big time now, because of that legislation from last year, that we're paying a percentage of the actual cost of the county's cost, that we are entitled to refunds or a reduction in the amount of money that we have to pay. So these are the intricacies that we have to kind of always keep track of and be diligent and vigilant, which is why I sleep very little and I have absolutely very little to no life. So, and I love it that way. We hope you got an idea of the issues that our members go through. And once again, they're not just our members or our clients. You are affected even if you're neither of them, because you're a taxpayer, or you might have, or you have family members or others that receive services through our Division of Welfare. And like I said, 1 out of every 5 people in the County of Essex is a client of the Essex County Division of Welfare. And what we need this administration to do, and they're starting to do it, we're going to keep on them, is to, and the freeholders, is to start to put the time and energy and resources anywhere near they do to such what I call frivolities as the zoo, the golf courses, and what's the other one, Jerry? Zoo, golf courses, and parks. The parks, all of which are beautiful. I'll say this, I've got another 30 seconds to go. Joe DiVincenzo, the county executive, is the best manager of those type of operations I've ever seen of any county executive since the first one, which I was there, all the way through to Joe. He's the best. Their jobs get done, they get done on time, they get done very well, sometimes a little too well with gold leaf signs and stuff, but they get done. I don't kick at all in that regard. The guy is amazing, and he should go into that business when he gets done with this business. But he got to be able to walk and chew gum at the same time, as we used to say. And there are human needs, the highest tax rate, the highest rate of poverty, highest foreclosure rate. Joe said it himself in that TV piece. Go check it out. And he said that 10 years ago, when he became county executive, they were the highest then. And he said, almost in his own words, guess what? They still are. Well, that's not good. That's not something great about your administration. You got to take that energy and some of those funds, and you've got to deal with the kind of issues that we've discussed tonight. So on behalf of the members of CWA Local 1081, I'm David Weiner, the president of the local, host of this show, Labor's View, and we hope to see you for more shows in the future. Good evening.